Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. Happy 2022. This podcast is helping companies and people get into the top 1% of sales globally. And that is our focus for 2022 for you. We've got feedback in 2021 and want to let you know we've taken it very seriously. Some of the feedback that came back it was kind of surprising. It was like some of the companies that are doing, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million, or below $5 million, we're thinking, hey, you know what? Doug doesn't necessarily work with companies like that. And the reality is I do if it's the right type of company. So thank you for those who have reached out and are my clients, and that we're growing your revenues and growing your profits and helping your sales team get into the top 1% globally. I'm doing a solo episode today because something came to my attention that I've been actually preaching for well over almost, I'm going to date myself, almost 30 years now. And it was, hey guys, the internet, that thing that sounds like, dial up, and then finally went to what we call DSL. Some of you are not old enough to probably even remember that, who might be listening to this. But the reality is this: when that DSL came in, that was a subscriber line, that was high-speed internet access without having dial-up. I was telling people in the world, hey, this is going to change how we do sales forever. And quite frankly, some laughed at me. They're like, you're crazy. Well, guess what? We're now in 2022 and it's happened. I was saying this thing for over 30 years. And the reason I'm saying this to you is for all of those non-believers back then, we're here. And the reality is this. The reality is that the internet has changed how sales are going, and it's for two major reasons. Number one is that people now can access information. See, 30 years ago, sellers had the information, buyers didn't have the information. So sellers could hide things from buyers. They could hide all kinds of different things, right? And so, not to pick on the car industry or anything, because I love car dealers and people who are selling ethically in a win-win fashion. And there are certainly car dealers who do that, but think about it. Car dealing right today, you have companies who have come in. You don't even need to talk to somebody to buy a brand new car. You don't need to talk to somebody to buy a used car. They have companies like Carvana, but even the dealerships themselves are going direct through the internet. And at one time, the dealers were telling me that over 70% of their sales were coming in from online leads. Think about that. Online incoming stuff. Well, people know with a click of a mouse, depending on the service you use, what the dealer pays for that car. Has it been in an accident if it's a used vehicle? What is the history on that car? In fact, the last time I bought a car, I went in and said, hey, I'm looking for this model. They said, great. And I said, does it have XYZ features? And they were like, what are you talking about? And I knew from the online search that it did. So here's the point. Buyers have the information now. Buyers don't need sellers like they used to rely on that information. They have the information. So it's changed the conversations. It's changed the dialogue from hey, let me show you all about this to let me show what you value most. The second thing that's changed is the way we've got to communicate. So before, think about it. You could go to an online party, if you would, but they weren't like they are today. In fact, video conferencing today is really referred to now as Zooming or some type of Google, whatever, right? It's no longer called video conferencing. But the reality is back then, and even 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, you had the ability to go to face-to-face interaction. You could go to a live event, for example, and talk to somebody, sit down with them and have lunch. You could have dinner. You could go out to a show together. If you weren't at a live event and you wanted to do that, you still do that. I remember, we used to schedule lunch meetings where I would go and talk to the owners of the company and all the decision makers and the influencers in the company. But we were there having lunch together. I could bring a team of people if it was a complex sale. And by the way, if you're selling complex sales, most of the time, it's got to be peer-to-peer. If they have their chief financial officer, you better have somebody in finance and chief financial officer at your table when you're selling to them. If they're bringing their IT people, you better bring somebody from your team that has IT. So the game's changed. The face-to-face has gone almost silent at this point. Why? The pandemic, right? People are not looking to get in touch with one another and sit down and have masks on for lunch. They've now moved from that. What's made that available? The internet. So technology is changing what's happening. And us as the selling party, people who are prospecting, we've got to change along with it. And one of the changes that must happen is we have to change the language we're using and understand something that I also was saying 30 years ago is humanized, relevant, meaningful, and continuous conversation or communication is going to be the way of the new spoken language in the future of sales. So think about it: human, relevant, meaningful communication that's continuous. Let's break it down for a second. What's humanized mean? Well, humanized means making it human to human, more human, right? I mean, people say that, dogs or dolphins they have human characteristics, right? My dog knows what I'm talking about, right? It's my dog is my best friend, right? That's making it more human. Now, I'm not saying we want to make our humans, dogs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we're having conversations, what are we doing to connect with the other human being on a level that they value? That's humanization. Relevancy. What is relevancy? It's closely connected communication on what they believe is what they want to accomplish. I'm using staccato here so you listen. I'm using this iambic pentameter, right? It's a cadence. But relevancy is what's relevant to them. What's meaningful to them is a little different. Meaningful means they're finding it useful for the quality of the purpose of they're looking for. But relevancy is getting them into the park, if you will, on what is being done and how meaningful is that. So you got to have humanized, relevant, meaningful communication. What is communication? The exchanging of information between one or more people. That has to be continuous. What's continuous? Ongoing. Why ongoing? Because when you're having an initial conversation, see, back in the old days, it was like, just go in and build rapport, build trust, like, and respect, build rapport, look at the fish on the wall, strike up something meaningful with them. And that's good enough. Today, it's not. It is not good enough just to go in and connect quickly and continuously avoid that connection. Because people, like if you look at studies today, you can see all these people leaving the job market, right? Well, there's reasons why. But if you look at studies today, you'll find that people who want to be hired today, yeah, they're interested in money, but that's not their primary motivator. 30 years ago, that was more of the primary motivator. Today, the primary motivator is quality of life. So people are looking for quality of life more than they ever have, probably in human history, but I haven't studied it that far back. I'm only going back the last 30 years or so. But today, quality of life is important. So quality of relationships equals quality of life. So we as human beings have human needs. If you go to Tony Robbins' website or listen to Tony Robbins, he'll talk about 6 human needs. One of those is love. One of those is connection, right? One of those is significance. So when we are continuously communicating in a humanized, relevant, meaningful fashion of communication that's continuous, we're building upon all these human needs. And since people want quality of life, they're looking for it. So you as the seller now have to embrace that process, right? So here's my question to you. Are you doing this in your ongoing communications? Are you exchanging such information that people are going, wow, I want to hear a little more of that, versus, so what? Because if they're saying, so what? Guess what? You're done. Game's almost over. They'll commoditize you. Then they're going to look just as like we were shopping for insurance today, right? You can buy insurance anywhere. Who do you prefer to buy it from? Well, some people prefer the value as, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to go buy insurance. But most people want to have that person explaining insurance to them so they don't overpay, they don't oversubscribe, and more importantly, sometimes that they subscribe in the capacity which is needed if anything ever happens, right? So it's not like, I remember Peter Drucker saying years ago, marketing's job is to make sales superfluous, right? You don't need the sales channel. I disagree with Peter. I disagree even more today. We need salespeople. We need top performers who understand what humanized, relevant, meaningful communication on a continuous basis actually means, because this is what creates relationships. And relationships are what create sales based on the need and value that they're seeking. Why am I bringing this up to you? Well, I got 2 emails today. So those of you watching the video, I'm going to hold them up and they're going to go away because I have a virtual background. But so I'm reading from you. I got a great email first thing in the morning. It was from a gentleman. His name is Adam Arthur. And he sent this email. He goes, "Hi, Doug. I was listening to some of your previous episodes on the Startup Selling Podcast, and I really enjoyed the episode you recorded with Scott," right? So I did a podcast on this, and Scott was the guy that I was recording with. Okay, let's think about this. Is that humanized? Is he making something a little more human? Yes, right? In fact, his title of his email that he sent was "Heard You on This Podcast." He named the podcast. Right there, he's connecting to something I consider relevant. Why? That's significance. He's recognizing me. And then he goes on and he says, "It was great hearing you share the expertise about building a more profitable business. It caused me to check out where else you've appeared, and I've now got a few more loaded into my next playlist." Ooh, compliment, right? Relevant? Yes. Why? I'll tell you in a moment. He said, "I asked because I help people better utilize podcast appearances in just one of several ways to help our customers grow their business. I'd love to chat with you about it sometime." The line before that was, "You're obviously familiar with podcasting, but do you have a strategy for using them intentionally for business growth?" Now, what is relevant about that? I just had meetings on that for the last 2 weeks. So he's caught my attention. He's created a human-to-human connection by mentioning Scott. He has built some relevancy for me. He's created some meaningful information because, the utility of purpose is now. He's exchanged information with me on how he can help. And he's doing this in a human-to-human way, saying, "Hey, look, I'd like to talk with you if you have interest in this." In fact, about an hour later, I got another email. And it was from somebody called Emil. And Emil, his headline is "Delivering $1 Million Online Coaching." Right then and there, think about this for a second. Delivering $1 Million online coaching. I've already got that, number one. And number two, it's what's in it for him, right? Heard you on the Startup Selling Podcast. That's not what's in it for him. That's what's in it for me. That's humanized, right? It's making the connection. So he goes on in the email, "Doug, your consulting clients need," stay away from that word, guys and gals, "need to replace millions of retiring employees during one of the highest labor market turnover ever." Well, hate to tell you, Emil, but my clients aren't those people, right? Firstly, I don't do a lot of consulting. I do advising. I do coaching. Occasionally, I'll do consulting. I used to do a lot of consulting. Secondly, my clients aren't replacing millions of retiring employees. My clients are usually those people who want to have growth, who want to add employees to their headcount, not replace retiring ones. right? So can you see right now, there's no humanization going on. There's nothing human to human about this conversation. There's really nothing relevant about this conversation. There's nothing meaningful about this conversation he's trying to have with me on his emails. And quite frankly, he goes on, the next line, this blog post tells how my company, and he goes on to name his company, help the consultants at X. Guys, this is old communication. Blog post tells about how my company. I could go on. Does your company have similar opportunities? No, right? So here's the point. Now, some people could be saying, well, Doug, that's just a message that doesn't hit well because of timing. Well, that is true. However, it's not like I couldn't possibly use his services, but the reality is I'm never going to go look. Why? No humanization, no relevancy, no meaningful communication, no exchange of information to me that makes me go, whoa, I want to hear a little bit more about that. And certainly it's not continuous. So why does this work? Well, Adam, I sent back an email to him saying, let's set up a meeting together. This other gentleman, Emil, will never, ever have that happen. So here's my question to you. Are you exchanging or imparting communication that is humanized, relevant, meaningful communication? Or are you just putting out information like Emil's putting out in everything you do? So I'm going to implore you to take a look at this, because a lot of times people go, well, hey, look, I'm getting some responses. Great. Here's the question. Are you getting huge responses? Are you getting huge conversion rates? I just did a campaign for a client. We did 2 of them. The first conversion rate was 71% of all the leads that came in, we closed. Second one is 73% ongoing right now. Are you getting conversion rates like that? And I'm telling you, if you're not using humanized, relevant, and meaningful communication. That is continuous in nature. What's continuous mean? Ongoing. Look, not everybody buys on the first conversation. So you've got to have follow-up pieces. Those follow-up pieces have to be humanized. They have to be relevant. They have to be meaningful. They have to be communicating what this person is not only looking for, but how you can bond as human beings. Because, the old adage, people prefer to do business with somebody that they like, trust, and respect, i.e. rapport, than somebody they hardly know. So this is Doug C. Brown signing off with the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast. Please take to heart what I said. I'm promising you this. It works. It works almost every single time, but it works the majority of the time. So I'm going to ask you a favor in 2022. Would you please, if you like these podcasts, I get emails from people, I get conversations going on email with people. I love to talk to people. I'm going to ask a favor. Please subscribe to my channel. Why? Well, when you subscribe to the channel, right, I get higher rankings, and it allows other people to actually see this more readily. It does help me out. I really appreciate you doing so. And, email me as you're doing, or connect with me on LinkedIn at DougBrown1234, or just give me a call at 603-595-0303. If I'm not here, one of the team members will answer the call. Let us know what you want in 2022 and 2023. I'm not going to stop this. So let us know what helps you. All right. So make 2022 one of your greatest years ever, please. And please humanize your communications on relevant, meaningful, and continuous pathways all throughout. And as always, go out, sell something, make some money, make great profit, look at your numbers, hold your business accountable, hold you accountable, and grow in 2022.